Well, hello. This is Tanya Weekly coming to you from Peddlers Den, and thank you so much for being with me today. So today we're going to walk you through how to complete the Safari Funky Fold card from your Make and Take kit. In your kit, you have prepared panels. These have the images that we have provided you for your Funky Fold card, and we have even included cutting diagrams. So we've tried to make this as simple for you as we possibly can. Now, all of these stamps are available for sale as a set, so if you decide that this is a project that you just love and you want to do more of it, you can place an order for any of the products that we're using from our website. Now, the first thing we're going to address is coloring. And I have used the Prismacolor color pencils, and I always keep a sharpener on my work table because many times you want to just, sharpen that point just a little bit. But what I want to share with you is my technique for using the Prismacolors. Now, this is meant to be a beginner level project, and so we're not going to get into any kind of advanced color pencil use. We're going to be doing just some real basic stuff. I like to use my color the same way that you would use, let's say, Copic markers or other alcohol inks. If you've been to any of those classes, they will teach you to use color families. They will teach you to use at least 2 shades, sometimes 3 or even 4, of the same color family to do your shading and blending. Well, this is a very simple version of the same process. So for instance, on my giraffe, I'm going to be using the yellow ochre and the light umber. The yellow ochre I'm going to put down as what I call a foundation layer, and I'm going to be pretty fast about this. What you cannot see in a video is that I am not really pressing at all. You want to have a very light touch because you don't want to bruise and you don't want to damage the surface of your paper. What I tend to do with my pencils is I tend to do layers of colors. So I'll put down what I call my foundation layer, which is always one of my lightest colors, and then I will go back with my darker shades, and at the very end, I may go back with the light shade again and work on the edges or the seams where the colors meet. And that's very similar to what you're taught to do with, let's say, Copic markers or other alcohol markers. You usually take a step backwards and you use your lighter shades as you're blending. So we're gonna get this foundation layer down, and I'm barely touching the paper. And you see I'm working pretty fast. Now, other techniques with pencils include using Gamsol to blend. And I own Gamsol, I sell Gamsol, and sometimes I even use Gamsol. But most of the time, I don't. Most of the time, the Prismacolor pigments are so soft that I find that I can just put them down in layers, and I can get blending that is sufficient for most paper craft projects. Now, to make something look round or like it is dimensional, like it is popping off the paper, you need contrast. So we're going to take the light umber, and we're going to deepen our edges here a little bit. And if we have deeper edges, it makes them recess into the background, and it makes the lighter ones pop out and seem closer. So we begin to get some contour to the neck of the giraffe. So I'm putting down some umber here. And then you can kind of follow along, like the artist has given you some ideas as to where some of the shading might be, and you can usually kind of follow along with that, and that will help you if you aren't comfortable with this sort of thing. That'll help you a little bit in knowing where to put your color and how to do it. Now, you saw me hit these little striations with the pencil, but I don't want them to be as dark as my outer edge here. So I'm going to go back here and I'm going to actually deepen this edge. And as I lighten up my touch, I'm actually feathering that into the yellow. Okay, so hopefully by now you can see that this is beginning to be a little bit rounded. It's beginning to pop a little bit. Now we're going to come up into the ears and the face. Now, you know, obviously the inside of the ear is going to be darker. And you'll see that I'm constantly flipping my paper around. On a project like this, I prefer to do my coloring before I cut everything out. To me, it's easier than trying to hang on to and trying to work on teeny tiny little pieces of paper. To me, that just makes it hard. Now, hopefully you can see how those ears, just by me adding a little bit of dark inside of them, now they tend to be real dimensional. The inside of the ear tends to look like it's going back farther, and the bright tends to look like it's coming out towards you. Now we're gonna come up here and we're gonna add some dark on the areas here. And you want to build it up slowly and gradually. I don't know if you can tell, but I'm not just doing lines. I tend to do a little bit of lines. I tend to do dots. I actually tend to do a lot of dots. But, you know, we want to be somewhat sparing. You can always go back and you can always add more. It's a little more difficult to fix it if you accidentally get too much right out of the gate. So now we have the giraffe is pretty dimensional, actually. And I'm not sure how much you can actually see. I am going to try to bring this up to the camera so that hopefully it will focus. Sometimes my camera focuses slower than I like. And hopefully you can see the difference that using the brown and the yellow makes. Now we're gonna take a look at some of the foliage. I use the technique that I just showed you all of the time. So on my foliage here, I'm using a combination of lime peel and kelp. And if you have marine green instead of kelp, they're almost identical colors. They'll look the same for the most part when you get them on. These are teeny tiny little areas. And of course, the smaller the area, the more difficult it is to get any shading in there. But I do want to show you, I'm going to just show you a little bit here. With the foliage on the acacia trees, I start the same way that I did the giraffe. I put what I call a foundation layer of my lightest color down. And then I go back in with a darker color and I begin to add the shadows and, you know, some shading and what have you. So what I'm going to do right now is I am going to show you the difference between where I've used the kelp and the lime peel versus just the lime peel. So even though we're working in the tiniest areas, adding some of that additional dark color really gives some dimension and some depth to our foliage. So we're going to do exactly the same thing with the foliage on the trees as we did with the giraffe. We're going to take our kelp and we're going to go in here, and for this you probably want to have a pretty sharp point. And we are going to, and I use mostly dots because I'm working in such a tiny, tiny little area. And I'm inserting some shadows. And a lot of times I will deepen the contour of the edge because that also gives us some depth. Also adds the green. But when I put a shadow underneath of, the acacia trees look like they have slabs of leaves. And when you put a dark shadow underneath of that, it tends to pop that out. So you can see how this is beginning to develop. Now, I don't have time to actually do the whole thing here, so I'm really sharing technique. You're going to do the giraffe the same way you did this giraffe, except because these are so much smaller, you're going to not use a lot of dark brown. You're going to use just a little bit of the light umber. The zebras, I didn't do anything to. The zebras, by the time you get all of the other foliage around them, because they're a black and white creature, they really pop out. The sky, we want to take a look at the sky. I used powder blue for the sky. Now, powder blue looks like it doesn't have a lot of color, but what happens when you put powder blue down is it makes those white clouds pop out. Now, if you have an art background, you can do a much better job and you can get really involved in this. But if you just want to do a fast and easy card, you can actually just put your powder blue down on all of your panels and it will look fine. Now, maybe you want maybe you want more texturing in your sky, maybe you want a more vivid sky. That is totally up to you. If you want to, you can follow the technique that I showed you, and you can actually make those clouds more. So for instance, on this panel right here, I used the 50% and the 20% French gray to add some texturing into the clouds. You probably don't see that when the camera is farther away, but it does add dimension. So the more of that sort of thing that you do, the more detailed your piece is going to look, and you, as the artist, get to choose how much time you invest in this. The elephants, you're going to do exactly the same way. Hopefully you can see the difference between the white background and the texturing in the elephants. Now, to do this, I used the 20% French gray and the 50% French gray. Now, the French grays are some of my favorites. They have less brown in them than a warm gray. And cool gray has a lot of blue in it. So to give you an idea, this looks like it has like no color at all. But here is a sample, and it shows the 20% French gray. You can see the difference between that and the white. It shows the 50% French gray. It also shows what a 50% cool gray would look like. So in the clouds, you might want to revert to a cool gray, but you wouldn't have to. I used the French gray on the elephants. I used both the 20% and the 50%, and I used exactly the same technique. I started out by putting down my foundation layer of the 20% French gray. Then I went back with the 50% French gray and deepened the shadows and followed the artist's texturing. And on this one, it is so subtle. But on this one, I actually went back in with some black colored pencil and I really deepened just tiny little areas of the deepest shadows. And I can tell the difference. It makes me happy. It pleases me. On the lions, we reverted back to exactly the same thing as we did on the giraffe. We put a foundation layer of the ochre down, and we followed it with shadowing of the light umber. On the rock, I did exactly the same thing, except on the rock, I put down a foundation layer of the 20% French gray, and I followed it with texturing of the light umber, and I tried to deepen the shadow right here where the female lion is laying on the rock. Now the ground here is probably the trickiest thing of the whole project. And with that, depending on whether you want your ground to be more dirt or whether you want it to be more foliage looking, you can put down either a foundation layer of the lime peel, or you could go back and put just a really light layer of the light umber down. I've done it both ways. They're both effective. And then after that, I'm going to do this very, very quickly, but we're gonna put down a foundation layer here of the lime peel. And I don't have time to do the whole panel here. I tried to record this yesterday and I was running at double the time I'm given. So, you know, we're just teaching technique here, and then we're going to turn you loose. But if you put down a foundation layer like this, and then you come in with your kelp green, and I think of it as doodling. So again, I follow the artist's blueprint, and I do lines. I do just little lines, and I'll do dots. I'm fond of dots too. Now around the base of the tree, I'll add more grass. And I just go through doing things like this. Now, you can go back with your burnt or your light umber, and you can add a little bit of brown in here, and it blends with the greens. But you can also use it, you know, like underneath the acacia trees, it would undoubtedly be a little bit more shaded than it would be elsewhere. So you can actually come in and you can create some shade. And you can do that at the feet of the animals if you want. But at the end of the day, by doing that, you end up with something that looks like this. Now, if you look very closely, I've got a little bit of a shadow here and here and here and here, even here. But it's very, very subtle. On this panel, I left more of the white paper show through. So the two panels have a slightly different look, and you as the artist, get to choose which look suits you. One of the things when you're putting your project together that is very important for you to pay attention to is where you're going to place your panels. I like to always keep at least one blank panel so I can personalize it. I can write, "Love, Tanya." If I needed to personalize it more, maybe I would put the elephants here and make this a blank panel, and I could write a personal message and then sign my name. But you have to pre-plan so that you know where you're going to be personalizing. If you wanted to, you could also pull some of the blue sky down and you could add blue sky here. You could add blue sky here. So if you wanted more blue and you wanted a less earthy looking project, you can incorporate some of the blue into the skies other places. But you need to also be mindful of how this is going to fold up. So this is the way this one folds and sends. So you want to make sure that whatever is going on here is going to look fine when the recipient pulls it out of the envelope. And then, of course, they open it up. And when they set it up like this to display on their shelf or table or whatever, you can see the whole panorama, which is fabulous. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the assembly. We gave you crop lines on purpose. And we tried to line as many of the margins up in straight lines as possible so that you can use a paper cutter to cut most of your lines. You may have to use a scissors a couple of places, notably right here where you have the L. But most of the cuts are lined up so that you can easily use a paper cutter and get a very precise cut on all of your panels. The funky fold card itself is a little tricky, and you have instructions. Your instructions show you where the mountains should be and where the valleys ought to be. But you can't just fold it quickly. When I get it, I will take this and I will pinch these a little bit just to get them started. Then I'll come up and I'll pinch this a little bit just to get it started. And I'll pinch this, and I'll pinch this, and I'll pinch this, and I'll pinch this, okay? It's really easy if you don't do this gradually. It's really easy to end up with wrinkled or creased paper where you don't want it. Now that I've got those pinched, I can pinch it farther. And I can begin to really, now it's starting to do its thing. You're starting to see the peaks and the valleys, and that is the way it ought to be. So then I fold it like this. If you want to really crease it, you can take a bone folder and you can do the creases. I prepare this like this before I begin to adhere my individual cut panels to the card. I want to make sure that I've got it so that it is folded and it's working well before I begin to put the cut and colored pieces on. Now, another thing I want to share with you, there are so many things that you can do if you want to do. We also sell what we call Scenic Elements stencils. Now on this card, we've stamped everything across here, and it's quick, it's easy, it looks nice. Another option is to use our stencils, and you can actually stencil the clouds on, and you can end up with panels that look like this. Now usually when I'm stenciling, I'll use like 2 shades of blue, or sometimes I use blue and pink, and then you get beautiful lavender shades as well. That's a different class. But if you like the way this looks, instead of stamping your clouds, you could purchase our Scenic Elements cloud stencils, and you could stencil your sky, and then after it was done, you can stamp your images on top of it. I stamped these birds on top of it after I was finished. You could stamp your branches and everything after it's finished. And nothing says clouds have to be in a blue sky. I really like this, especially for African scenes where, you know, there are a lot of the hot, bright oranges and stuff going on. So this would be another option. And on this one, I think I used 3 shades. I think I used a yellow, a red, and an orange. So that is another variation that you could exercise if you wanted to. Let's see, I am at 26.5 minutes. My video is supposed to be no longer than 30. I want to encourage you to reach out to me if you have any problems. My name is Tanya Weekly. I represent Peddlers Den. Our website is peddlersden.com. If you need to order any supplies, we do have a coupon code that is Safari20. I don't believe that is case sensitive. And if you wanted to order the stamp set or whatever, you could use that coupon code and it would give you 20% off. It is not 20% off site-wide, but it is 20% off of Makin a Scene branded items that are not already on sale. So I want to thank all of you for joining me today. I hope you enjoy the project. And please feel free to reach out to me if you have any additional questions. Thank you very much. Goodbye now.